Good morning, good afternoon, hello to everybody joining today at our Smartsheet Australia and New Zealand virtual user group featuring End Food Waste Australia. Once again, for those that have just joined, welcome to the ANZ virtual user group. My name is Jay. I am your host today. And before we begin, I would like to do an acknowledgement of country. So today, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and we pay respects to those elders past and present. We would like to extend this respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here with us today. And once again, welcome to our virtual user group. So for those that just logged in, my name is Jay. I am today's host, and we have a wonderful speaker, Melanie from End Food Waste Australia, who will be sharing their Smartsheet use case, a very interesting one. So please stick around for that one. Followed by Udi, who is our commercial solutions engineer. And with us supporting today is Nina Tan, whom I'm sure a lot of you are also familiar with. She is also a user group host, and she will be with us to answer any of your burning Smartsheet questions. So covering the agenda really quickly. As I mentioned, I'm going to do this welcome really quick so then I don't take away too much time from Melanie, who will do our customer story. We'll do an open Q&A. So if you have any questions specifically for Melanie, we have that time available, followed by the product spotlight. And again, we're going to open up for Q&A for any additional questions before we close off and officially close the user group. Just a couple of user group housekeeping questions. We want this to be as interactive and, valuable for everybody that attends. So please feel free to use the chat function located at the bottom of your Zoom menu bar. Comments, words of encouragement to our speakers. And if you have any specific questions, I do ask kindly if you could use the Q&A function, again, located at the bottom of your Zoom menu bar. It just helps us as a team to monitor the questions as well as get back to you in a timely manner. And by the end of the event, if we're unable to answer your question live, we know who to come back to post-event. And again, if you have any specific question for our hosts or speakers, please use the Q&A function. Great. Quickest intro ever from myself. That's a record time. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Melanie Han from End Food Waste Australia. Melanie is a data reporting manager with experience in system implementation, data analytics, and reporting. Melanie enjoys designing systems to streamline operations and using data to provide valuable insights. I've had an absolute pleasure getting to know Melanie and learning about how they use Smartsheet there at End Food Waste Australia. And I hope that, you get something valuable out of this as much as I did. I'm really excited to bring this on. And Melanie, welcome.
Thank you, Jay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming along today. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully that's all good. So just starting off with about me, but Jay's already done the introduction, I believe. I'm the Data and Reporting Manager at End Food Waste Australia, and my role entails things like system implementation, reporting, data analytics, a bit of impact modelling, and working with business intelligence. Jay also suggested I put my Smartsheet superpower up on the first slide, and that was an interesting thing to think about. I'm a self-professed data nerd, so it's probably things like formulas and data architecture. So considering how to structure the data the best way in different sheets so you can make the most sense of it and then use it for reporting. So I'll start off with a little bit about End Food Waste Australia. So Australia has a commitment to halve food waste by 2030, and End Food Waste Australia, we're a non-profit working to make that happen. We have a few different programs, but I'm going to focus today on the first one on this slide, which is the End Food Waste Cooperative Research Centre, or CRC. For those who aren't familiar with a CRC, it's a federal government program that provides funding for collaborations to solve industry-identified problems. And in this case, the problem is food waste. So our funding comes from industry, research organisations, and also state and federal government. And then we take that funding and use it to fund research projects that explore solutions to the food waste problems. So the organisation's grown in recent years to include other programs, and we've got the Australian Food Pact. That's a voluntary agreement for food businesses who take a pledge to reduce their food waste. And we're also targeting consumers through a behaviour change campaign, which was actually just launched on the weekend, which is very exciting. But for the purpose of today, I'll just be focusing on the End Food Waste CRC. So unlike a competitive grant agency, the research projects that we develop are all designed collaboratively between industry, research organisations and ourselves. So we track project ideas from concept all the way through to completion and monitoring of their impact. So this is a little workflow that sort of explains the core of what we do in terms of managing those projects. So we have the concept comes in, the project idea, we have a short internal approval process to endorse that concept, and then the project team will go away and develop that into a full project proposal. That proposal comes back into us, it gets evaluated and approved and eventually contracted. We then award the funds to the delivery partner, and then the project's underway. And in this stage here, the project team need to report back to us every quarter. And then we have the project finalisation process, and once it's all wrapped up, we just keep track of the impact that's come out of that project. To give you an idea of scale, we've had 80 projects so far since the CRC started in 2018. The average project is around 270K and goes for just over 2 years. We have 8 university partners and 76 industry or government partners. So our role is really to administer and oversee the process of allocating those funds into research projects and then monitoring those projects through to completion. So as I mentioned, the CRC has been operational since July 2018, and I started with them in 2019. And at that time, we were using a bespoke project management system, which was run by a small company. And they were hoping to grow, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. And at the same time, we were looking to scale. So that's some of the background of why we ended up moving to Smartsheet. So some of the limitations of the existing portfolio management system was that it only covered part of the process that we needed. When looking back at the previous slide, we had 9 phases of that project cycle, and the system would only cover phases 4 to 9. So we ended up using an Excel sheet to cover the rest of the process, that first part of the project development. At the same time, I was also creating an impact model to predict the impact of each project in terms of food waste reduction, industry profitability, things like that. So that was made in another separate Excel sheet because the existing system couldn't manage that. We have a customer relationship management system. We use HubSpot. Again, that wasn't linked to the existing system. So we had things like company names were often entered differently in both systems, which caused a bit of headache for reporting. And I would also do a lot of reporting using Power BI. I create reports for our stakeholders and also use it to visualize and interact with the predicted impact of the portfolio. But again, the existing system couldn't really connect with Power BI, so I'd need to download data each time, which obviously made it immediately out of date. So this is some of the background of where we came from and the motivations for looking for something different. The company didn't have a single overview of what was happening. It was fragmented and reporting was difficult and time-consuming. And finally, in our existing system, the user interface wasn't very intuitive for our external users, so we didn't have very good engagement. So that was the challenge. The solution, obviously Smartsheet. We went through a procurement process and ultimately chose to move to Smartsheet largely because of the scalability, so it can grow with the business While we had very defined procedures for the CRC, the other areas of our business are new, so we didn't know exactly what they would need. Vendor viability, we wanted a more viable vendor after essentially working with a startup for our previous system. We wanted a bit more security there. And also Smartsheet, because it had the ability to natively integrate with our CRM and also with Power BI. So we worked with InfoSpark on the build. Now InfoSpark are a Platinum Solution partner and their head office is in Adelaide, which is where I am as well. They resell Smartsheet software and they also offer implementation, training and integration services. They've apparently helped many clients across Australia and New Zealand, and they were a really big help in getting us started and helping us set everything up. So we started working on this in February 2023 and we went live in August last year. It was quite a big build, so I'm just going to show you a few examples today. So this is a card view of all of our projects now in Smartsheet, grouped by phase. It's essentially one core sheet where each row is a different project. And you can see that it now has all of our phases from 1 through to 9. When someone on our team first has a project concept, they'll submit that through a form. And then as the project progresses through these different phases, we'll collect more and more information and enter it into the project card. So once a concept has been approved to proceed to a full proposal, the project team goes away and works on that proposal. And then once it's received, we'll input most of that data into the project card, and we are using the magic of Control Center to create and populate a range of templates with all of the data from the project card. So we have a lot of assets for each project, including dashboards, reports and sheets. And this is a screenshot of all the assets that are created for a project once we get to that point. And obviously within each of these folders, there are sheets and reports as well. So there's quite a lot that we've set up, and it just makes it really quick and easy that they're all just automatically generated by Control Center when we reach that phase of the project. So I'll just quickly go through a few screenshots showing you some of those project assets. So we have a project dashboard, which collects general information about the project. This is an evaluation summary, which is another dashboard for a project. We have project milestones. And here's an example of project financials. It might not look pretty, but it collects all the data in a useful way that we can use for reporting. So that's Control Center. What I want to talk about now is a workflow that we've set up to facilitate our project quarterly reporting process. So each quarter, the project leaders, who are external end users, typically from a university, they need to report on the progress of their project and report back to us. Their report then gets reviewed by a series of people, both internal and external, who assess the project based on that report. And one thing we liked about Smartsheet was that these external stakeholders don't really need a license to interact with the system. So that's we found that quite useful. So with this workflow, at the beginning of the reporting period, the project leader is emailed a link that takes them to this dashboard that will be specific for their project. This first step is a manual process that our team do. That first step isn't automated, but it's a nice touch point with that stakeholder. And the dashboard will step them through the different steps that they need to complete for the quarterly reporting process. The first step takes them to a form where they enter a series of text-based questions about how the project is going. And then they're taken to their project milestones and they fill out the yellow columns here where they enter a % complete and a traffic light system of project progress, and then any comments. And finally, they provide a financial update. So it's a report that shows them what they're expected to spend in the quarter, and then they'll enter in the yellow column what they actually spent. Now, once the project leader has done all of that, then our team gets a notification through Smartsheet, And our team then go through the workflow that we've set up, and they use a checkbox to trigger an update request, which sends that to the next person to review in that workflow. And this screenshot here is an example of a report that we created that keep our team up to date on where a project is up to in the quarterly reporting process. So once the next person has reviewed it and provided comments, then they'll get a green tick in this column, and our team will get a notification that it's done, and they can come back into this report and then use the checkbox again to send the update request to the next person in the list. The update request works quite well, particularly for the external stakeholders. They get an email notification like this, and they'll click on the button and they're then taken to a form to fill in and leave an assessment of the project. And again, we like that they don't need to log in through this process. They're pretty busy people, so it's made it a lot easier for them to complete. And then once the whole process is complete, everyone's comments are captured on a dashboard. There's an example here. And then our team will send out a link to that dashboard to the project parties, or they can also save it as a PDF and send it as an attachment. When we were designing this process in Smartsheet, we did test it on a group of project leaders who are external users, and we got their feedback. We asked them to rate various parts of the system out of 5, and everything scored higher than a 4, which is really good. And they gave some really useful feedback, which meant that we could go away and tweak the process based on their feedback to improve it. And one particular example I have from this process is we had a project leader who refused to use our previous system. And so every quarter we had to produce a Word document, a paper-based form for that particular project leader to fill out, which was obviously extra time for us. Then once we rolled out the quarterly reporting in Smartsheet, we found that the project leader now uses the system with no complaints. So that is definitely a win. So that is our quarterly reporting workflow. I just wanted to mention fairly quickly reporting and impact modeling. So we have dashboards that obviously bring all of the information together for all of the projects and summarizes it at a portfolio level. Here's some examples of those dashboards. It used to take me quite a long time to generate this type of report for committee meetings, or when I was asked for them, it would take about 2 or 3 hours for me because I'd have to download data from multiple sources and make sure it was all formatted correctly and up to date. Now I just have to save the dashboard as a PDF, and that will take less than 5 minutes. I've also mentioned that I use Power BI for reporting, and it connects directly to Smartsheet, and it's very easy, and it means that the data is always up to date, and it's a very quick connection. I previously had to download the data from the project management system before I could create any reports, so it meant that it was immediately out of date. So this is an example of a report that I create in Power BI. We call it a participant snapshot report. It gives a summary of the organisation's investment into the end food waste CRC, so what projects they're involved in, what cash they've invested and their return. The stakeholders really like them, so when choosing a system, we wanted to make sure that it could connect to Power BI quite easily, because I wanted to be able to maintain these sorts of reports. And one other example of using Power BI linked to Smartsheet is for the impact modelling. So for each project, we forecast the impact primarily in terms of food waste reduction, but other metrics such as industry profitability. And the model that I had built in Excel is now living in Smartsheet, and again connects really easily to Power BI. So the impact model is really just a series of questions that the project team answer, and then we roll up all their answers into a portfolio level model that predicts the impact over time. So how has all of this impacted the business? Well, now everybody has full visibility of our whole portfolio. Personally, it saved me a lot of time on reporting, which is fantastic. We have better engagement with our stakeholders, particularly our external end users. It's more user-friendly, so that engagement has improved at the project quarterly reporting. And the automation keeps everyone up to date. So we use automation, for instance, to inform our team of when a project end date is approaching. And so I think that's really reduced the risk of something being forgotten. And probably the most important is that there are no limits as our organisation now grows. We wanted something flexible, and yeah, that's definitely what we've got. And this is my final slide. Before I finish, I just wanted to mention a fun way that we're using Smartsheet. So at 4 p.m. each Friday, it's tools down in our office in Adelaide, and we share a drink and a mystery chip or crisp. And it's a different flavour of chip every week, and everybody gets to rate the chip and have a guess of what they think the flavour is. So we have a Smartsheet form that is linked to a QR code. Here are my colleagues, Sarah and Kaz, sitting on the couch with the QR code. So people sit on the couch and they just have to scan the code with their phone, and it takes them to the Smartsheet form, and they'll enter in how many drinks they've had, and they get to rate the chip. And of course, that means that there's a dashboard that goes with that, and it keeps track of the drinks you've had, what you owe on drinks, and it also shows you all of the mystery chips. So we've had 85 different mystery chips over the years, and it will give you a table of the top 3 most favourite chips based on rating and the bottom 3 chips of the year. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for that. I must say, my favorite use of Smartsheet for fun so far in my time here at Smartsheet is the use of the mystery chips. We do have quite a fair bit of questions, so why don't we tackle a few of them here that were submitted. First one was the concept proposal from was the concept proposal form made through Smartsheet? Which I think you did a screenshot.
Yes, that one is a Smartsheet form, yes.
I'm just going to go through. And is your initial dashboard view, your initial dashboard view, does that have the form and both reports for entering in the details? And is this a specific function via Control Center?
Can you say that one again? I'm not quite sure what part it was referring to.
So in your initial dashboard view, and I think this is from maybe Beck, if you want to elaborate a little bit. The question was, is your initial dashboard view, does this have the form and both reports for entering in the details? So really, yep.
Yeah, the form we have as a link on a dashboard, on a business development dashboard. So our staff will click on that link and it will take them to that form to fill in. And so I think one of the very first slides I was showing was the card view that they might be referring to. It's not actually a dashboard. It's just a nice way to view a sheet in card view. So the link to the concept form does live on a dashboard, but not what I was showing on that slide. So our users will access it from there. And as for all the extra information that goes into the card, we do actually still use like offline templates for collecting that data. And we found that people still like to use sort of offline templates because they can share them around. So we did stick with that. And once they're submitted, we'll have somebody transfer that into Smartsheet.
Wonderful. And the second part, Beck, of your question, is the specific function via Control Center? No, it's not. You can use this without Control Center, and actually in our product spotlight, Udi will actually touch base on some new features that have been recently released in case you weren't aware of them. So I won't steal Udi's thunder. I'll leave that one for him. Another question for you, Melanie, is that are all the projects located in a single workspace, or does each project have their own workspace? It's a really good question.
It is a good question. All of our projects live in a single workspace, and I can't recall why that was done, to be honest. That would have been a decision made with InfoSpark, who helped us with the build. I think it was some simplicity with Control Center, and that's why we went down that path.
Wonderful. And maybe I know Antonio is in the chat from InfoSpark representing at the moment. So if you have something specific and want to connect with Antonio from InfoSpark, just reach out to him in the chat. I'm sure he's more than happy to discuss that one as well. I'll ask that one at the end. So let me tackle a few of the other ones. Molly, could you talk about the integration with Power BI? How was it done? If you have any insight into that.
Yeah, it's really quite simple. So in Power BI, when you go to connect to a data set, a Smartsheet comes up in the list as one of the data sets or sources that you can connect to. So it's very simple to go to say you want to connect to Smartsheet. It will then make you log in to your Smartsheet account. And then from there, you can view in Power BI all of your sheets, and they're nicely structured just as they are in Smartsheet. So you will go through and select whichever sheets that you want to connect to Power BI. So it's all out of the box, I guess, that integration.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll pass that one. Yeah, a lot of questions around the Power BI. So again, learning a little bit more about the Power BI integration and other Microsoft integrations as well. Why don't we can definitely cover that off as well when I think Udi maybe and Nina in the next Q&A would love to get a little bit more insight from the both of you and share some customer examples and where and how that is used. Another one, is the completed data ever archived? If so, what is the process if you're able to share?
Yeah, that's a good question because we don't really have a process for archiving data. The only part of that is in the impact modeling is we've set it up so if somebody was updating the impact predictions for a project, it is useful for us to remember what the previous predictions were. So we prompt them that before they make an update, we have a little checkbox that they tick, and that's linked to an automation where it will copy that row into a new sheet for sort of historical purposes. So that's the only time we're really archiving any data, actually.
Okay, so lots of questions coming in, just trying to go through them all. I did warn you, Melanie, you did get quite a few questions, which was great. Another really great one, actually. When you send the update request for quarterly reporting, you showed a form that they can complete. Do your stakeholders have multiple update requests to complete? And if so, do they receive a separate email for each request? And then I guess another follow-up question to that, or do they scroll through each form to complete and save and submit at the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the time, particularly our external stakeholders, they're only working on one project, so they will just get the one notification and they'll answer that form for that project. But then the last step of that workflow, all of the projects are reviewed by our research director. So he does have to review all of the projects, and it is an individual email, one per project, and you'll go in and do that. They are individual forms. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And we're coming into a little bit of a time here, but we'll have more time with Melanie as well, and close to the end of the session. But one last one, maybe this is a good one to end on for now. If you go back to the beginning of the project, what would you have done differently, given your learnings now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Differently, I'm not too sure. I think lessons to share are probably working with somebody who knows a bit about Smartsheet, because the possibilities are really endless. It's such a flexible system. So probably 2 bits of advice is finding somebody who's got something fairly sophisticated set up or who knows how to do it. And that's why working with InfoSpark was so valuable, is that they could bring all of those ideas to the table and it wasn't just me trying to nut it out for myself. And the other thing we did was bring people along for the ride. So I did mention some of that sort of stakeholder testing that we did with our project leaders. I think that was really valuable, to bring them along for the ride and make them feel part of the process. And also internally, I had a little working group. So some of my colleagues would be involved there and help me test things and provide feedback and work out how to do change management and bring the organisation along for the ride as well. So it doesn't really answer the question of what to do differently, but it's probably 2 bits of advice that I would give anybody starting out.
Okay. And maybe just a last question to wrap this one off, because I just saw one that would be a really great segue to add on to this one as well. When you were going through that process, obviously with InfoSpark and doing the build, was there also support provided by the Smartsheet team throughout the whole setup process? And I guess this is one for, also feel free, Nina, to jump on board since you're in customer success. But Melanie, I guess, could you give us a little bit of insight into the team that was behind either InfoSpark or Smartsheet throughout that build process and the support that they provided?
Yeah, throughout the build, it was primarily InfoSpark. So working with their technical account manager, Peter, who was fantastic. It was really the 2 of us who were working on that build. And then it probably wasn't until the end of the build that I sort of was connecting more with the Smartsheet team, and they sort of helped make me realize what was out there in terms of support for once the build was up and running. But in terms of building it, it was mostly Peter from InfoSpark, but my experience is probably different from others. So I'll throw it back to you and Nina as well.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm happy to jump in
Yeah,
in
go
there.
for it, Nina.
Yeah, so in terms of support, when it comes to building control center, so let's say if you're getting this built for the very first time, we have our professional services team who can do that. Also, our channel partners can do that as well. We have Smartsheet University that can help you get the training you need. We also have live classes when it comes to how to create a blueprint. And then once that solution is live, you have ongoing support through your customer success manager, through our support team as well. We have pro desk sessions, we have webinars and courses in our Smartsheet University related to control centers. So you'll definitely get lots of support. In terms of time to value, obviously there's lots of benefits to getting that built by professionals, especially if it's the first control center built for your team. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So basically, the short answer is you'll definitely get support, and you'll have lots of choices when it comes to how you would be getting that initial help.
Very well said. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Nina. And Nina will also be sticking around, after Udi's presentation. So again, if you have any questions, whether it be for Melanie, Nina, or Udi, pop them into the Q&A function and we'll get to them as soon as we can. If not, we'll reach out to you at the end of the user group. But again, thank you so much for that, Melanie. A really wonderful presentation. See a lot of positive comments there, and we'll catch you again in the next Q&A. Wonderful. Moving forward, now Udi is our commercial solutions engineer, and he will be doing our product spotlight for today. Udi, welcome to the user group. Stop sharing.
Great. Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll kick off from there. Okay, so welcome everyone I'm just going to be going over some of the product updates that have happened over the last few months. You might have seen quite a few changes already, and I just want to highlight some of those as well. And then I'll actually be touching on just as a bit of a different thing for the user groups. I thought maybe we can touch on some dashboarding best practices and one of my personal favorite formulas, which I think is very useful. I too am a data nerd. And then I also want to just demonstrate just a couple of AI capabilities that we've got and some exciting features coming in that aspect as well. So there's been quite a lot of updates over the last few months. I have about 21 that I was able to find, and I'm sure there's more that have come out as well. But I think these ones would be the most relevant to a lot of users. So I just want to touch on these. So you might have seen a new homepage. There's a new board view. There's global search, which is now located in the side navigation bar on the left. Forms inside of your workspace's navigation bar are now visible, so it's a lot easier to find those forms. The unified share button means that you're able to share workspaces and assets directly from one place. Wider dashboard canvases, which is very, very exciting. It allows you to put in more widgets on one-page views as well. You can zoom in and out of dashboards, and there's easier ways to start creating solutions. So instead of just having a wall of text, I want to just show you some of those changes as well. So over here, we've got the brand new sort of home page that you've got. So everyone should be able to start seeing that now. And a couple of the features that were mentioned there. So there's quicker ways of actually starting to build your solutions. And you can start from templates. You can build everything from scratch as well if you need. And there's now a global search up here as well. It's much more powerful. It's got a much better fuzzy recognition. So if you have any misspellings, it will be able to find what you're looking for as well. And then there's an advanced search results section as well, where you can filter down by individual assets or workspaces, whatever you might need to find your assets a lot quicker. For dashboards, you'll see a new button, which is located at the top right there whenever you go to edit a dashboard. And that will essentially help you widen those dashboards as well. Over here, so you can see here, this is an example of the core app updates. The form updates over here. So you'll be able to see all of your forms associated with a particular sheet inside of the workspaces pane as well. And up here is the share button. So on the top right-hand corner, you now can share directly to workspace or sheet, regardless of what asset you're in. What I want to show you here is an example of the board view in action. So this is going back to the card view that was demonstrated by Melanie earlier. So the board view is an updated version of that as well. It allows you to have a details pane on the right-hand side, which is much more interactive and a nicer UI as well. On top of that, you still have the ability now to create child cards. So these will actually create a new row inside of your grid. So all of this is still just a view of your base data, and then you'll be able to move the cards around and reallocate or adjust them depending on the rows that you've got available to you. It's a very powerful new view. Oops. All right, so timeline view was something that was released a little while ago, and since then there's been quite a few updates to timeline view just to enhance the functionality of it. And this is taking in a lot of feedback that we've gotten as well. So conversations and attachments are now directly available. You can manage filters, the title truncation, so making sure that it fits within the actual timeline bar. You can adjust the settings on that. You have visibility into who's working on your sheet. You'll be able to see who's there. The timeline view is available with sheets that only have one date column. So before you did need two, now you can do it with just one. So if you're making like a deadline list, you're able to do that. And grouping is applied by default. So as a quick rundown here, you've got your filters and your grouping over here. This is the title bar truncation. So it's basically saying, do you want the titles to only stay within the bar, partially in the bar, or if they're quite long and they're exceeding the bar, where do you want that to cut off? And then you'll see up here, you've now got attachments and conversations. So if you were to click into any of these items, you'll have a details pane that pops up, and you can access all the attachments associated with that item as well. For those who are using resource management, we now have advanced reporting. There's also new filters in the capacity view. and there'll be a default allocation of 100%. So one bit of feedback we got is sometimes people would forget to put in the 100% allocation inside of their project schedules. So now it'll automatically default to 100%, and then you can overwrite that just to make sure that everything's connected with RM properly as well. I want to show you an example of some of the advanced reporting. So now in RM, when you go to your analytics tab and run a report, you'll see a new button up here, which is called Advanced Report. From there, you can actually decide if you want this advanced report to update every 24 hours automatically, or if you want it to update on a manual basis. And what this will do is it will create a workspace in Smartsheet with all of those reports in there for you so that you can start using the full features of Smartsheet to basically connect it to your existing reporting as well. So you can see it's created some reports, a sheet, as well as a dashboard for you as well. In terms of security, you would have seen a new login method. So we've got one-time time-based passcodes. So you can get a passcode to your email and log in with that. And there's also new password complexity requirements. And for those using Data Shuttle and Dynamic View, Data Shuttle now has workflow sharing. So this is a great way of making sure that whoever needs access to your workflows has access to it. And we've also got faster loading time for dynamic views as well. So if you've got them embedded in dashboards, they'll load a lot quicker now as well. So just as an example over here, inside of Data Shuttle for all of your different workflows, you'll have sharing settings in there as well. And then for those who are using Dynamic View, and if you don't know what Dynamic View is, we're essentially taking like very specific criteria from our sheets, and we're only showing it to the people who need to see it. And then that can be embedded on dashboards, for example, so that people just see what they need to see as well. All right. And lastly, we had an announcement. You would have started seeing this little icon, the sparkle icon in your bar as well on the right-hand side of Smartsheet. So this is available to everyone until 2025, which means that you have a chance to play around with some of the AI features, which is very, very exciting as well. All right, so a few of the AI features, generating formulas, text summaries, and analyze data and get help are all available. And there's a few more that are coming as well. If you do want to understand more about AI, then we've got a website, smartsheet.com/AI, with all of the white papers and all of the information around AI as well. So what I want to do now is jump into a demo. We're going to be talking, I just want to talk a little bit about a few dashboard tips that I've got. My favorite function, which is the collect function, and I just want to give you a demo of some AI in action. So let's start off with a little bit of I imagine it's a bit of a common scenario that everyone has, which is iteration being a key part of Smartsheet. So it's pretty common that you might want to go in and say, okay, great, I've got this dashboard here, but at the moment it's very text heavy and I want to add some metrics to this. So there's quite a few different ways of adding metrics within Smartsheet. So you could create a report and basically connect your report using the metric or the report card over here, or the widget, sorry. And then that way, once you've kind of grouped the report and summarized the information, it will display that metric. I want to show you a slightly different way that I like to use as well, which is quite useful. But before doing that, I'm just going to talk about the collect function. So on our Smartsheet help, you'll be able to find some more information. But the collect function is something that lives inside of other functions. And it's a really great way of basically summarizing a data set. So we're taking a data set and we're just saying, okay, based on a bunch of criteria, I only want to perform this average function. I only want to calculate the average based on these criteria over here. So I'm just going to translate that. So in this case, it's saying, look at costs from 1 to 5 and only show me anything that is above 30 and then calculate the average of that. So we're taking the entire, the cost range and we're just saying, okay, well, let's take a subset of that information and then put some other function on it. So let's have a look at an actual example and how it relates to your dashboard metrics. So as an example, what I like to do inside of my project schedule is I'll create a summary section up here. And this summary section has a whole bunch of different metrics inside of it. And then that way on my dashboard, I can just point them to these metrics over here. So let's have a look at total phases. Now, my question here is I want to calculate the number of active phases that I have. And I've got a status column to tell me what the status is. And I've got a task type here to recognize which are phases and which are tasks. So I've applied the collect formula over here. And the way that this is being read is, okay, collect everything inside of the task type column, which is this one over here. And I want you, for the task type, only give me ones that are phases. So basically, that formula is now filtering out anything that says task, and it should only give me phase, phase, and phase. That's it, just those 3 lines. And then I've said on top of that, can you also look at the status column, which is this one over here, and only look for ones that are not complete. So anything that is not yet complete. So then it's only looking at these 3 rows here. And then we're just saying, okay, well, actually in progress, in progress, in progress. So if I count those based on all of these criteria, the answer should be 3. And that is exactly what we've got there. So applying that further, you can go into your total tasks. Maybe you've got some milestones over here, tasks by status. So all of these are just using a variation of the collect formula, and then tasks by health. So as an example, if I want to know how many red healths I have, I just go, okay, well, look for anything where the task type is task and anything where the health is red. And that's how I'm able to calculate that. So it's a really easy way of kind of summarizing information from your sheet into a nice constrained summary section. And from there, I can now take all of these metrics that I've calculated and start putting them on the dashboard as graphs or as metric cards to make that dashboard a bit more readable. So let's have a quick look at one more example that I want to show you. And we're going to use a little bit of AI here as well. So I've got an update log over here. So my project managers come in, they provide an update every single month on the 1st of the month. And conveniently, I actually need to provide an update for today. So over here, I can see that they've added a lot of information, but on the dashboard, I don't want that much information. So rather than reading through this and summarizing it myself, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight these 3 cells, open up our little sparkle icon. We've got text and summaries, and then I'm just going to say here, summarize additional notes, and you'll see it automatically recognizes columns. So I can click on additional notes in less than 50 words. So that's what I want. I can hit generate from there. And basically, I've got an example over here. And sorry, I should have highlighted these 3 because that's where I want to apply it. So I'll apply it to the selected cells. And now I've taken information from here, summarized it into here, and I can start displaying this information on our dashboard. So now let me just add today's date. Great. And I know that that will be the latest update. All right, so we've taken quite a bit of information from different ways of creating metrics. And now let's have a look at, I'll show you the dashboard over here. So this is kind of an updated version of the dashboard. So now I've gone ahead and added a few more metrics in here. A lot of these are using the collect formula to gather information. And I've basically said, okay, great. I have my task healths. I've got my descriptions in here. I've also added in when my next status update is due. That's a very useful one for me. And I can see here that this will be the latest project update that we had. And this here is actually reading those metrics that we had in our project schedule to basically bring in new graphs over here as well. So if I just go into edit, so you can see that it's reading straight from our project schedule and it's just gathering information from this section over here. So task by status. So that is now being translated into a nice graph as well for you. So that's a nice little example of how to use one of my favorite formulas, how to basically get an idea of bringing metrics together inside of a dashboard as well. And just a quick example of the AI in action. You can also use that AI to help you generate formulas. So very quickly, I just want to show you what it would look like instead if you were to use the AI. So for the active phases, I might come into here and select generate formulas and then say I want a count of the number of, so we're going to say status that is not complete, and task type is phase. So let's generate a formula there. I imagine it might spit out a count ifs. Yep, there we go. So for those people who don't want to necessarily generate the formulas themselves, you can then generate it using AI now as well. And it will help you basically create all of these metrics in different ways as well. All right, I will stop it there and pass it back to Jay. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rudy. So as I mentioned, I knew you were going to get this question, and we'll get straight into it. So so a couple of people here had asked, Adrian and Beck, couldn't you just use sheet summary fields instead? Or I guess in another way, any reason why you would put the summary in the main sheet rather than a sheet summary field?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a lot, as everyone knows, there's a lot of different ways of showing information inside of Smartsheet. So I like to use that summary section just because everyone can view that a lot easier. Inside of the sheet summaries, I've had people who don't even know that it exists, so they're not aware that they have access to that. But obviously, you can do it within sheet summaries. This is just another way of capturing that information. Yeah.
And then just also to add on to that, I think, Uni, do you want to explain, I guess like the metric sheet or the sheet summary in terms of then adding that data into the dashboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So give me 1 second. Would I be able to share my screen one more time, actually?
Yeah, sure. Let me stop that now. Go for it.
Great. Thank you very much. So sorry, we were a little bit time constrained there, but if we wanted to add any of these metrics in, you can create the widget as a graph, and then for your source, you would select the sheet that you wanted and basically highlight that section. So sorry, I do have a little bit of a lag there. Okay. But basically when that sheet summary when the sheet selection pops up, you would basically need to select this section over here, and that would be the data for your graph. So that's another reason why you could have a dedicated metric sheet, but then you're creating another link, whereas over here, everything is being managed in the sheet. So you can just highlight that section and generate your graphs directly from that area as well. So that's another reason why this is another way of generating that information.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Udi. And Beck, and we're happy to connect and show you some more examples if you like as well. Another one, I'm going to direct this to both Melanie and Nina. So this one is from Kim. I'm just going back in terms of the presentation. So using the one workspace, did you have or do you have any security issues with access at this level? Maybe, Melanie, do you want to go from your perspective, and Nina can add on from, I guess, overall Smartsheet best practices?
Yeah, so how we're using that is, as I mentioned, all of the projects are in the one workspace and everybody internally has access to that workspace. But then to share it externally, we only share certain sheets and reports with our external stakeholders. So we go through and just when a project started, we pick out which particular assets the external stakeholder should have access to, and we'll share just those assets. So that's how we manage the security, in that the external people only see what they want to see. That's how we're managing it.
Wonderful. Nina, would you like to add on to that as well?
Yeah, so ideally, when you are using a workspace, the main goal there is to just have a single source of all assets. It's easy for people to find sheets, reports, or dashboard. There is a benefit of sharing that entire workspace in one go, but also sharing it down to just the asset level. I think in terms of security, there's many different interpretation of what security means. Obviously, if you are sharing that entire workspace to everyone, you know that if you do that, everyone will see everything that's in that workspace and any other assets that will be added moving forward. But you can control it by, you know, just trying to share it just on the asset level as well, and also thinking about what kind of permission levels you give those users that you are sharing those assets with. So, you know, you could be sharing that entire workspace, but only giving them viewer rights or editor rights. And also when you try to do that on an asset level, you can do the same as well.
Wonderful. I'm just conscious of time as well, as I know everybody's quite busy, but for those that were asking about the recording for the session, we have recorded this and we will be sending that out in the next couple of days, so keep an eye out for your email. It will also be available on our website as well in the user group section under previous recordings. But what I will do again is in the interest of time and conscious of everybody's time, I'll just move forward. Nina had mentioned a couple of resources that will help your journey through with Smartsheet and the platform. So here are just a couple of our favorite ones if you're not aware of, are really great to bookmark. So we've got our Learning Center, a self-service learning tracks with videos, help articles, webinars, and a lot more. We also have our Solution Center with free templates that you could use, so you don't have to create anything from scratch. We also have the Smartsheet University, where you can get on-demand, instructor-led training, certification. And we also, one of my favorites is the Smartsheet community, where you can connect with other Smartsheet customers or users globally. Post up a question and it's a lot of really good peer-to-peer help. And then we also have our Smartsheet support, where you can get the help. Upcoming user group events. So we've got quite a fair bit of in-person events coming up, which is, oh, actually, I should start off with that virtual one. In a couple of weeks' time, we have another user group, a virtual user group with Knight Frank. This is a very great use case where if you would like to learn more about how to do approval processes, workflows, using formulas and help columns, and it's not complex, trust me. It's a really great user group to attend. So we have, again, that's on our website. So if you want to register for that, that is available. Registrations are now open. We also have a couple of in-person user groups. So one hosting in Sydney on the 7th of November. We have our special guest from our product experiences team flying over from the US. We'll be doing some showcase of some new product updates and features off the back of Engage Seattle. And then again in November, we have one happening in Hong Kong, and the rest of our virtual user group lineup and lineup, we'll have that posted on our website as well. If you're interested in presenting at a future user group, we would love to hear from you. So I know that a couple had already put their hand up in our poll. So thank you. I'll be reaching out to you later on in the day. But if you are interested and want to reach out to usergroups@smartsheet.com. Would love to hear from you. And as Nina had mentioned, if you are looking for that extra expert help or want to improve your usage of Smartsheet, reach out to the customer success team at customersuccess@smartsheet.com. Now, before we end, I want to again thank everybody for joining our user group session today. I hope you found this valuable and insightful, but a very special thanks once again to Melanie Han from End Food Waste Australia, our special guest, for sharing that wonderful use case and that fun way to use Smartsheet, and as well as Udi for doing the product spotlight. Lots to learn from there, and I hope everybody took a little bit of something from that as well. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and appreciate you joining us. Bye.
Move with the rhythm, shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. You've been working.